Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Okay, so let's dive in. If you feel like your attention is constantly fragmented, pulled between a million browser tabs, email alerts, maybe that little buzz of anxiety about a deadline, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. It feels like sustained focus is some kind of luxury these days, doesn't it? But what we found looking at the sources is it's actually a skill, a fundamental one, and it's something you can actively train and really improve.
It really is maybe the central cognitive challenge for us right now. We've gathered insights outlining some very specific, actionable strategies. It's not just about managing distractions. It's about fundamentally strengthening your brain's ability to concentrate.
And concentration, it's way more than just ticking off tasks or hitting productivity goals, right? What we found is having a strong attention span is actually critical for learning faster, boosting your short-term memory, solving complex problems.
And maybe surprisingly, it even helps regulate stress. The research is quite clear on that.
Yeah, that was interesting.
At its core, concentration is just the mind's ability to fixate on one single thing, a task, a thought. So our mission today really is to give you a kind of roadmap. It's based on, let's say, 3 pillars for improvement. First, getting what we'll call external control over your environment. Then, building internal training strategies. And finally, making sure you have the right biological support for your brain.
Okay, let's start with that external control. Sounds like where we can get some quick wins, right? Focusing on elimination. We all kind of know we should turn off notifications, but what did the sources say about why it's so crucial? What's the deeper reason?
Well, the real issue isn't just the, 2 seconds it takes to glance at that ping. It's the cognitive switching cost. Every time you get interrupted, your attention fragments, and getting back to what you were doing becomes exponentially harder. The sources are really emphatic. Turn off all non-essential notifications on every device.
Easier said than done sometimes, though.
Oh, for sure. And if willpower isn't enough, that's where digital tools come in. Things like Freedom or Stay Focused. They basically automate the barriers for you, block those tempting sites during your work blocks.
That makes sense, kind of outsourcing the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea of protection, it moves from digital to physical space, too, right? The workspace itself.
Yeah.
We always hear, keep a clean desk. But I found the mechanism behind it fascinating in the material. It's not just about looking tidy.
Exactly. It boils down to cognitive load. Visual clutter, even if you're trying hard to ignore it, still eats up mental energy to process. Some studies even suggest that a lot of visual clutter can actually increase cortisol, the stress hormone.
Wow, okay.
So a clean, organized desk genuinely promotes mental clarity because you're minimizing those unconscious drains on your focus.
So the clean desk, a comfy chair, good lighting, these aren't just nice-to-haves. They're like defensive tools against stress and eye strain. We should also talk about sound. What's the nuance there? Because silence isn't always possible or even helpful for everyone.
Right. A quiet space is generally best for really complex stuff. But if you need some background sound, the advice is pretty consistent. Stick to soft instrumental music or maybe natural sounds like rain. But the sources are very clear. Avoid music with lyrics if you're reading or doing intense creative thinking.
Why lyrics specifically?
Because those lyrics automatically engage the language processing parts of your brain, so you end up with this direct competition between the music and the task you're trying to focus on.
Okay, your brain's trying to do 2 language things at once. That makes perfect sense. All right, so once we've wrestled with the external environment, how do we start mastering our internal timing and energy levels?
This is where understanding and respecting your body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm, becomes really important. It's that natural 24-hour cycle. We all have these natural peaks and troughs and alertness throughout the day. Trying to force deep, difficult work during a natural energy low, it's like swimming upstream. You're just fighting your own biology.
Okay, so if we want to schedule the really demanding stuff, like writing a big report or maybe some creative brainstorming, serious studying, when's the best time, according to the research?
Well, for most people, the advice is to schedule those high-demand tasks during their peak focus hours. This usually falls late morning into the early afternoon. Basically, you're matching the task difficulty to your natural alertness levels. It makes the effort feel, less effortful.
And that ties perfectly into the idea of structure and timing within those work blocks. Specifically, something like the Pomodoro Technique, it pushes back against that idea that you just have to grind nonstop until you burn out, which, feels productive but actually tanks your performance.
Exactly. The Pomodoro Technique is beautifully simple. It's 25 minutes of intense, focused work on one single task, followed by a short 5-minute break. Then you repeat that cycle. After maybe 4 rounds, you take a longer break, say 15 to 30 minutes.
And what's the magic in that 5-minute break? Why does that work so well?
What's crucial is understanding it's not just about resting, it's a deliberate cognitive reset. It helps you maintain mental energy over time. And interestingly, it actually strengthens your attention span by giving your brain these regular, short recovery periods.
That structure feels really important because even in those 25-minute sprints, let's be honest, our minds are going to wander. That's just what minds do. And this is where the science of effort got really interesting for me. I always figured the hardest part was just getting focused initially. But the data pointed somewhere else.
Yes, I found that distinction really insightful too. Scientists talk about 2 main types of effort we need to train here. First, there's concentration effort. That's the energy you need just to start focusing, to initiate the task. But often the bigger challenge is what they call focus back effort. That's the mental energy required to pull your attention back after your mind has drifted off or after you've been interrupted. And if you're constantly having to yank your mind back again and again, that focus back effort becomes really draining, really exhausting, and your performance drops off much faster.
So things like the Pomodoro breaks and having a structured environment are kind of like training wheels for that focus back effort, making it quicker and less draining.
That's a great way to put it, yes. They help manage and reduce the need for that constant, strenuous focus back effort.
Okay, that leads us nicely into the second pillar. Internal training. We're talking about behavioral strategies now, building new habits. And the first habit we probably need to break to protect that focus back effort is the myth of multitasking.
Oh, absolutely. We need to be really firm about this one. Multitasking is, well, it's a misnomer. It's actually rapid task switching, and the evidence is overwhelming. It drastically lowers the quality of your focus, it increases your error rate, and it completely prevents that deep, meaningful concentration we're aiming for. The commitment really has to be towards single tasking, one thing at a time.
And setting boundaries helps enforce that single tasking commitment, right?
Right.
Both physical and digital boundaries. What are some concrete actions people can take?
Yeah, specifics are key. This could mean literally putting your phone in a different room while you work, or maybe committing to only checking emails at, say, 2 specific times a day, like 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. It also involves communicating clearly with people around you, setting expectations about no interruption periods. You have to respect your own focus time.
Okay, but let's get practical for a second. What if I need my phone nearby? Maybe for two-factor authentication, or I might get genuinely urgent texts from family or something. How do you set a boundary without completely cutting yourself off?
That's a really common friction point, you're right. The sources suggest a kind of compromise approach here. You could place the phone face down, maybe just out of arm's reach, but still in the same room. And critically, you configure the settings so only absolute essential notifications come through, maybe from specific contacts like your child's school or a direct boss for emergencies. Everything else gets silenced. This reduces that constant visual and physical temptation to check, but keeps that essential emergency line open.
That sounds like a much more realistic adaptation for many people.
Oh.
Okay, good. Now let's shift to some of the more, let's say, advanced cognitive training techniques, the ones that really caught my eye in the material, starting with the spider technique. I think it came from Kansas State University.
Yes, the spider technique. It's such a powerful mental metaphor for filtering distractions. You basically visualize a spider sitting in its web. Now, that spider only reacts when something truly important happens, like an insect getting trapped its next meal. It learns to completely ignore the harmless stuff, like the wind blowing or a little rain hitting the web. So you train your brain to adopt that same mindset. You consciously practice ignoring the minor, unimportant distractions, the wind, so you can stay laser focused on your priority task, the prey.
I like that analogy, filtering out the noise. So that helps with external filtering. But what about the noise inside our own heads? You know, the intrusive thoughts worrying about bills, family stuff, replaying that awkward conversation from last week.
Yes, the internal chatter. That's where specific cognitive behavioral techniques, or CBT, can be incredibly helpful. One of the best strategies discussed for handling these kinds of derailing thoughts is called worry-think time.
Worry-think time. How does that work?
Instead of getting sucked down the rabbit hole the moment an intrusive thought pops up and potentially losing an hour of focus, you acknowledge the thought, maybe quickly jot it down, and then you make a firm commitment to yourself. I will dedicate exactly 15 minutes later today, say at 5 p.m., to properly think about this. You schedule it. This way, you protect your current block of focused work.
So you're basically negotiating with your brain. Okay, I hear you, but not right now. We'll deal with this later, I promise.
Exactly. It sounds simple, but it can be remarkably effective at defanging those thoughts in the moment. And then for a really quick, in-the-moment tactic when you just catch your mind drifting off, use the mental phrase, be here now.
Be here now.
Think of it as a sharp, deliberate cognitive anchor. It's meant to immediately snap your attention back to the present task, right when you notice it wandering.
Okay, these are powerful internal tools. So we've covered external control and internal training. That brings us to the third, really foundational pillar, biological support. It feels like none of these techniques can really reach their full potential if the underlying machine, our body and brain, isn't running well, right? If it's not properly fueled and rested.
Absolutely critical. The source material draws a very direct line between physical health and cognitive function. It's not optional support, it's essential. Regular aerobic exercise, things like brisk walking, running, swimming, is huge. It dramatically boosts oxygen flow to the brain, which directly enhances mental clarity and your ability to focus. And we really have to hammer this home. Sleep. Getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night is completely non-negotiable. It's vital for memory consolidation, for learning, for basic alertness.
And diet, of course, provides the actual fuel. What are the key nutritional elements we should focus on for peak cognitive function?
Yeah. Fueling the brain properly means prioritizing things like whole grains, fiber, and protein for sustained energy release. Healthy fats are crucial too. Specifically, the research highlights omega-3 fatty acids. You find those in fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds. They're vital for the actual structure and signaling within the brain. Also, antioxidants, think blueberries, help protect your brain cells. And hydration, of course, don't forget water.
And the flip side, what should we avoid?
Equally important is avoiding the things that actively hinder focus. Processed foods, tons of refined sugar. These are notorious for causing that horrible mental fog and energy crashes that just kill concentration.
Right, and just quickly integrating a point from the sources about common focus aids. Seems like while a moderate amount of caffeine from coffee or green tea can give a temporary lift.
Yeah, it's temporary, not a sustainable strategy on its own.
And relying on instrumental sounds is still generally better than music with lyrics for complex tasks.
That's the consensus, yes.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, it feels like the big message is that concentration isn't some fixed talent you either have or don't. It's a skill, and it's a habit.
Exactly. It's built through consistent, purposeful practice. Using the strategies we talked about, controlling the environment, training the mind, supporting the body. We've really tried to go beyond just surface-level tips today to understand the mechanisms behind improving focus. From setting those external boundaries to actively training that internal focus-back effort.
And making sure it's all supported by solid biological health routines, sleep, diet, exercise.
It requires that dual effort, controlling the external world, the noise and notifications, and mastering the internal world through things like mindfulness and CBT techniques.
And ultimately, a huge part of that internal mastery has to involve managing stress, which we identified as maybe the single biggest enemy of concentration. We learned how stress floods your system with cortisol, and that directly impairs attention, makes it harder to retrieve memories.
Which is why techniques like setting aside that specific worry-think time are so valuable. They're active stress management tools, protecting your focus.
So, building on that, here's our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider. Since we know training your focus means actively managing that internal chaos and lowering stress, what's the absolute smallest, most immediate action you could take, like right now? Maybe it's a quick 5-minute mindful breathing exercise, or just grabbing a notebook and doing a 1-minute journal entry to get a worry out of your head. What tiny step could you take right now to actively lower your cortisol just a bit and protect your focus for the rest of your day? Start right there. Start small.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.